Welcome to our monthly gathering for Scorpio season. You have found yourself with the Energetic Brew, where we help to awaken whole being wellness in you. And we do that through looking at what year is happening in the transits through your chart, give you body practices so then you can start to align yourself to what is happening above the sky and what you might notice that is happening within you. I am so excited. My name is Rochelle McFarlane. I'm an energetic medicine woman who loves to teach people things and to talk a lot, my son would probably say. And with that, I will switch it over to him and let him introduce himself.
Which son? Are you referring to me or
All right. Yeah, I have
another
three of
one?
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the one that's here. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Well, I am Zane McFarlane, son number one, and I'm a rising Virgo, sun Pisces. Here coming from that lens viewpoint when it comes to the astrology standpoint and the teacher as well. So excited to be here and happy for you to be spending your Thursday night here with us live or whenever it is during the recording.
I love that. And I'm very shocked that you're like son number one and the favorite one. I'm surprised you didn't offer that tidbit of information. I love that you bring up that you are a rising Virgo. I'm a rising Pisces. Together, we sit across from each other in the astrology chart. If you found yourself here and it's new and you don't understand what we're talking about, you found yourself in the right place. We are going to break things down into small tidbit pieces so that you can start to live into your chart like we do and like many of our clients do around the world, where the transits don't no longer stir them. Instead, they feel like they're stirring it and taking control of their life, working with those transits. And speaking of the transits, we're really curious. We have checked in with our community. Some weird things have happened during the eclipse. Some weird things have been showing up, and we're curious for those of you that are watching right now that are not a part of our live class, but watching the recording, leave us a comment down below where you have found this little bit of content for yourself. We're curious. We want to hear from you. Our mission is to create community and to do so in a private way. The recording pieces are where we have hit record without our community with us, but they're behind the scenes. And this is something that's really important to us because sometimes when we're building community, it's about finding what fits us, and we take a stand for that. And part of it is being able to use the transits in a way so that we can start to understand not only ourselves through our natal chart, but also to understand how our natal chart is getting activated. And Zane, what is something that's getting activated in your chart right now? I said I wouldn't do this to you, but I just did. It's okay if you don't have an answer.
Yeah. Oh, what's being activated in my chart?
Mhm.
Immediately I would say Jupiter sitting at 21 degrees, very close to my natal Saturn at 22 degrees Gemini. So any close conjunction with it, I would say is the closest aspect happening in my chart. So it's the expansion of possible responsibilities and stepping up to responsibilities and building more structure.
Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting is that when we start to understand how the transits are showing up for us, last week was really cool because you were asked to step in your leadership in one of our new sponsors, We Think Outside. You went on board without me. You went and taught for a day. You want to share a little bit about what that was like for you?
Yeah, that was an interesting experience of more being on the sidelines a little bit, helping out, teaching a little bit of uh like plant identification, a little bit out of my realm of personal knowledge, growing that knowledge though, but helping facilitate it and making sure no one got left behind in the woods.
You're really good at that. You being a firstborn, that innate ability. So when Saturn and Jupiter, now this might not be happening in your personal chart right now, but I want to touch on this really quickly. We have Jupiter, the expansion, the capacity to, some might say, luck, if those of you believe in luck. it's also like good fortune. It's the happy-go-lucky part of us that can show up with Jupiter. And depending on what house and what sign it's in, for Zane, it's his role in the community. And it's in the sign of Gemini, as he mentioned. And so when these two are coming together, as he mentioned, it's about the expansion of leadership. And it's also the expansion of, as he mentioned, structure, but being able to offer guidance in a way through the lens of paternal love. So it's not necessarily about having to be one specific gender or another, but it's that capacity to be able to offer a space called safety for others. And that is often a lot of feedback that I get from others, is that he has the capacity to be gentle and kind, but also offers this sense of safety. He's helped many people, especially women, start to trust that masculine energy again. So with that, I just want to share part of what's happening with my chart. It is a lot to do with my home life and being able to bring in, how do I expand in my home life? And I made over 13 liters of pickles recently. So it's something that came to me very, very easily. And being able to, again, understand how Jupiter is working in our chart. After we do our little body practice, which is just going to happen in a moment, we're going to talk more about Jupiter. And for those of you that are here, go ahead and use the chat. If you know where Jupiter is in your chart, we will have a play where I bring up and share the screen and we can talk about where Jupiter is in everyone's chart. Because this is something that's really exciting. Jupiter is not just about the expansion, but it's also kind of like happy-go-lucky energy. The low side of the chart, Zane, you want to touch on the low side of Jupiter? It can be
Mm,
retraction.
yeah, subtraction. It could be that piece of withdrawal, loss, as it is the opposite of increasing the expansion and filling space. So it could be that bit of anything that goes against that opposite word wise to that of retracting from the space.
Yeah, like
And
wanting to hide out in a sense.
yeah, hideout, or it could be, yeah, that piece of if Jupiter plays a big part in your chart of being the social butterfly, it could be that piece of becoming the hermit now. It could be that piece of stepping away from career orientated and coming back towards home life. So it can show up in many different ways in a chart. It's just a matter of fact of looking at what are your individual energetic brew ingredients that flavors. Really, Jupiter adds the flavor to your energetic brew. And so it's a matter of fact of taking a look at it. If you don't know how to look at it, come to us, we'll help you out, and we'll be able to mix the brew together and see what works for you.
Exactly. And there is a lot to do when it comes to our charts and not being able to understand it. And this is why we're here, because we want to help break it down into smaller and smaller pieces so you can live with it. So Jupiter is going to be, I'm kind of not feeling a little bit finished about it. Jupiter is going to be going into retrograde. It just started its shadow yesterday. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And so what is happening now is that it's going to start to review certain degrees of Gemini. And as it's starting to review those degrees, there's going to be some connections to how you do expand when it comes to the mind. You might have more inward things happening when it comes to the mind, when it comes to the thoughts. Those of you that like to write, depending on where it is in your chart, it will be, as Zane mentioned, a unique expression to you. But for the collective, this is really about expanding the mind, expanding communication, and being able to be maybe a little bit more on the edge of what you want to say, how you want to go about it. And then also the fact that you're going to probably get some sort of, I like to say downloads, but some inspirations when it comes to how you do want to expand when it comes to using your mind. Anything that you want to add to that, Zane?
No, I would say you got it on that one. I can't think of anywhere else to fill in the space.
Well played. Well played. Well played. So at this point in time, what we're wanting to do is we're going to honor the fixed water of Scorpio by doing a body practice and a little bit of mindfulness coming into our space for a short meditation, because many of us are probably really aware that the world needs a lot more space to find peace and connection. And part of this whole Jupiter part is really about the expansion of water. There has been a lot of expansion of water. And so now we're just allowing ourselves to slow down and to relax, dropping the shoulders and the jaw down, maybe giving yourself a little bit of a wiggle, finding your place that feels good for you, whether it be standing, sitting, laying down, or a combination of thereof. This is, again, we encourage you to do what feels right for you. And inhaling through the nose as you're ready and exhaling out the mouth. I'm noticing some tightness in my hips, so you might see me swaying in my camera today. Did a lot of driving today and a lot of travel. And something else that Jupiter will bring into our charts. And so part of what we're going to do is just as you need to, if you're needing to move, do so. Notice and track how you might move your body. And if you notice that your chest is closed a little bit, I'll invite you to bring your shoulders forward as much as you can, curling downwards. And then on the exhale, opening up that chest, rolling the shoulders back, and lifting up the head and the chin to the skyward. And we will honor the sky, the titans, the great ones that are here in our evening for us to chat about. On an inhale and an exhale, feeling Mother Gaia below us, the pulsation of the sacred lands, of those that walked before us on the land that you are caring for, tending for, just honoring those sweet souls, those sweet ones, and calling in the south, the west, the north, and the east, bringing in those four directions, those four winds for change, and calling upon them and asking them with this next breath for more love, for more support, for the brothers and sisters, for the mothers and the fathers, for the grandfathers, the grandmothers, the wee ones that are yet to come, that they may feel supported in their physical bodies as they are expressing as individuals of the sweet ones. They are here to bring the medicine to this world, to this planet, to the space that we can have more love, more love. And then the ones that have passed over can do so sweetly, knowing that their work was done and that they can be now honored as an ancestor to their lineage. And with the most amount of respect to all nations, I ask for more support and more love for all nations to feel loved and that they can take up space as we honor Jupiter and Mars in this, and a little specialness on them, bringing in that breath and how we can take right relationship with our bodies. And with that breath, how we can inhale and exhale with a little more expansion within our own bodies. How that feels good for you. And placing your hands upon this body that you can call yours, wherever that might feel good. For in these practices, it's not about being right or wrong, but what actually feels good to your body, and giving yourself full permission to surrender into feeling that, into connecting with the body, trusting this relationship with yourself, trusting it as you are, as you were ready, and knowing that it might look different from yesterday and it might look different tomorrow, but just honoring where you are today. As we are recording this, we are still in the Libra season, the beginning of autumn in the Northern Hemisphere, being able to give ourselves the breath, the connection, so that as our bodies transition and go into Scorpio season, that we can come into a place of right relationship within ourselves. So inviting you to these next few breaths just to scan your body, And maybe it's your thoughts, maybe it's your emotions, maybe it's your physical body. Just notice what comes to mind when I say the words of what is out of balance. What needs to be seen or heard, or what is already yelling. Honoring it in a way, letting yourself know that it is okay with where you are at right now. Continuing to feel your breath, inhaling and exhaling. And as you're inhaling and exhaling, bringing in this nourishing breath to wherever it is that's needed for you. Noticing what is alive for you and what needs to be released with your exhale. Dropping down a chord into Mama Gaia, just allowing yourself to feel grounded, where that feels good for you. And then as you're ready, as that chord drops down, send one up to the cosmos. With these next few breaths, allowing this connection to the sky and to the earth, to let the pulsation of those energies to come up and down, and then being able to use your breath in a good way to help clear out what no longer belongs, whatever needs to be filtered out, to make room for the goodness that is calling to you, that wants to come in. And if it feels good to move your hands about your body as you're doing this, just notice what feels good for you, where you might place your hands. And if you just want to leave your hands still, that's okay too. This is pure invitation. This is about slowly building more trust, no matter where you're at with you and your body and your breath. This evening, we're going to work in with a little bit of kidney energy this evening. And a part of that, the invitation is to place your hands as you're ready in behind the back of your head, where your thumbs can squeeze the top of your neck, and then your laced fingers hold the back of your head. Your eyes can stay closed or open, whatever feels good for you. As we move into this body practice, and keeping that connection to the sky and to the earth at this point, drawing in longer breaths if possible. And with a little bit of pressure, just letting that head rest further into the hands and squeezing the nape of the neck if that feels good with your thumbs. This will help to reset the vagus nerve. If the mobility is there for you, just to have a slight turn to the left. It can be a whole body turn if that feels good for you, or just the head. Going to the left and then going to the right. This is a slow movement with an inhale and an exhale, matching up your movements, inhaling to move and exhaling to come back to center. Inhaling to turn and exhaling, coming back to center. This is about going your pace. See if you can lengthen that spine just a little bit more, pulling up on the head just ever so slightly. If it's uncomfortable for you to do this, please, again, trust your body and how it is speaking to you. We're just going to move a little bit with the fascia. So if your hands need to come down and shake them a little bit, you can. Bring them back up as you're ready, and inviting you again to interlock those fingers at the back of the head and squeezing the thumbs at the nape of the neck. If you have any neck issues, please be really careful with this, trusting how your body is. If you can follow along with the cues, that's great. But again, feel into what feels good for you. Inviting the pull of the skin with the thumbs on the nape of the neck and bringing the head down towards the chin, down towards the chest. Breathing in, exhaling, and again, allowing a little bit of rotation of looking up to your left and coming back to neutral. And then again, going up to the right. You can sync up your breath with your movements. This is great. If you can breathe in and out the mouth a few times. Notice if you can take your rotations just a little bit further than the last time. If that feels good for you, then do so. And if it's not feeling comfortable, then please, 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 please trust your body. And then when you're ready, you can bring your head back to neutral. Give that neck a little bit again of another squeeze. Release and let go. Oh, rolling those shoulders back a little bit. Bringing them up to the ears. We're going to work a little bit in the upper traps. This is a muscle that is involved with the kidneys. And again, this is about a nice slow movement, bringing them all the way up to the ears as much as you can, and then releasing and letting go nice and slowly. Again, notice what this feels like in your body. Noticing an increase of heat for myself. And then we'll rotate from we'll shift from one side to the other. So taking your right shoulder and right ear, you're going to tilt the head, drop it just ever so slightly towards the shoulder, and the shoulder will come up towards the ear. Give it a squeeze, and then release and slowly start to let it go. This will help to reset the traps. Also start to talk to the nervous system. And then we'll go ahead on the left side. Releasing and letting it go. We'll do one more on each side. And then we'll come into a couple of massage points. And then I'll share my screen so that we can finish this up with a little bit of kidney meridian tracing. So if it feels all right to clench your fist and apply it to the back of the lower part of your back, where you can start to feel the hip crests in the back of your hip, your pelvis, on your lower back. Start to sort of explore if this feels okay for you to do, where you can start to dig sort of the knuckles into the back area. For those that are familiar with their spine, it's an L5, it's lumbar 5 we're looking for on either side of the spine, giving a nice little light massage in this area. Again, coming into the breath, and a lot to do with our lymphatic is actually doesn't have a pump. So the more we can massage it, the more we can start to move this lymph around, which is really important as the seasons change, as we get closer to winter, being able to drain this lymph So if you find yourself really enjoying it and you want to take this a little bit wider, again, listen to the body and what it's asking for. Once you're done in this area, your hands are going to slip around to the front of you. Find your belly button, that navel, the umbilicus, and you're going to go 1 inch out on either side from the belly button and 1 inch up. So it's 1 inch out from the belly button and 1 inch up. And there's some points on the front of us here that might be tender. If our kidney energy is out, we will notice some tenderness there, which I'm noticing myself. So again, this is about pressing as much as you can handle, not here to hurt ourselves. And we're going to move that about. I'm going to invite the kidney card to come up in just a moment, if possible, please. And we're going to bring that up on the screen so that you can see if the kidney meridian is something new to you, where you can start to trace this upon yourself. Those of you here that are live, if you want to start to bring your eyes open, those that are watching the recording, start to flutter your eyes open as you are ready. And you will see our screen where it's talking about the kidney meridian. If accessibility is challenging for you, the mind, again, Gemini, Jupiter and Gemini is really about expanding our mind. And we can now facilitate tracing a meridian through a mental state. So if it's hard for you to get down to your feet, that's okay. You are not left out. You can start to just do the best that you possibly can. Where this kidney meridian starts is down at the bottom of the foot, on the ball of the foot. And what we'll do is start to draw this energy up from the bottom of the foot. Once we get across the foot a little bit, you can see this line here. I'm just going to make it a little bit brighter. Whoopsie. You'll notice this little bit of a blip that goes around the ankle area. And part of that ankle area is, it's almost like kind of like I call it a cul-de-sac. It goes around in the area, up the inner part of our leg and up to the midline on either side. It goes a little bit wide once it's at the rib cage, comes and then straight up the rib cage and up and underneath the collarbone. As you want to trace this as many times as you need, we invite you to use these words or to create an affirmation of your own where it comes to releasing the toxins with ease, and that you can direct the nourishment to where your body needs it. As you trace this kidney meridian, you can use these words or, again, words of your own, being able to draw this energy up from the foot, up through the body, and underneath the collarbone. There is a lot of energy that can get stored in this line. So notice if you need to pause at this point in time, come back to this, possibly even, and to give yourself the space you need to really do your body justice. Tracing a kidney meridian is one of the ways that I have helped to develop a better relationship with my menstruation cycle. And this is also a meridian that I will give to clients to help them to start balancing their hormones. This is something that really helps because it's all about our adrenals. And we might have noticed with some of the transits that are coming up that our adrenals might be affected. We might be starting to feel some burnout. So this is part of our physical part of our practice. We're going to leave this up here for another couple of moments. You're welcome to screenshot this and, start to use this in a way that feels good for you and your body. And those that are here live, we're going to come in over to you and do a quick little check-in, and we'll start to do the transits when we come back. All right. Welcome back. Let us know how that body practice was for you. What kinds of shifts or changes did you notice? We love to hear from you when it comes to body practices. On to the transits. This is the segment where we talk about the stars, what's going to be happening, what to be listening to when it comes to some of the retrogrades. One of the questions that came from our community from behind the scenes during our little check-in with our community here is, what is a Jupiter retrograde? We hear a lot about Mercury retrograde, but maybe not a lot about Jupiter retrograde. The reason why we might hear more about the Mercury retrograde is because it happens anywhere between 2 to 3 times a year. Zane, you want to correct me on that, or did I get that right? Because I'm going
That's
from memory.
correct. But that's what my memory says too. So,
Yeah. So we hear a lot more about it because Mercury is whipping around in the sky a lot faster than Jupiter. A Jupiter retrograde, it's really about noticing the flavor right now is Jupiter is going to be retrograde in Gemini. And this is maybe a retraction in our thoughts, feeling maybe shut down mentally. Maybe it's also having a little bit more of a spark that happens within our mind. So a retrograde can bring high and low energy from those aspects, from the flavor of the sign it is in. So collectively speaking, this will be in house number 3, communications, talking about our, not necessarily our upbringing, but our connections we might have with family members, with siblings, short-term early education, noticing where those things are. If you're being drawn into learning something new that you didn't necessarily expect. Zane, you want to talk a little bit more about this Jupiter retrograde?
mhm. How so? So more aspects about it, like within its retrograde or when it's happening?
Oh, great questions. And this is a good demonstration of Gemini's flavor of a Jupiter retrograde. It's asking for clarity. So if you notice yourself asking for more clarity into expanding in communication, we've just demonstrated what this might look like for you. All of the above.
All the above?
Yes, that is my answer.
Well, with the Jupiter retrograde, it could be that piece of a great windfall of writer inspiration, or it could be writer's block. That's the immediate one that I went to within the Jupiter retrograde within Gemini, because Gemini is communication, but writing is a form of communication. And I know personally I've been getting a bit of writer's block here and there. So it's not consistent throughout its retrograde. Know that it'll have ups and downs, just as anything in life. So take note when you have your ups and when you have your downs. Know that you're not going to constantly be down, nor will you always have the constant up energy to it. But it started its retrograde yesterday. Today is October 10th. So yesterday was October 9th. And it goes direct. This will be happening until next year on February 4th is when its retrograde ends. But we'll still be in the shadow of it. So we might have a residue bit of these writer block periods or increase of communication or short-term travel. So take note of that those pieces. And then April 30th is when we finally come out of that shadow period and actually have Jupiter going further into the zodiac signs and continuing its path forward
Mhm.
and taking up space.
Yeah. Another thing we may notice in a Jupiter retrograde is that things are going to go slower than expected. So really just notice where you're feeling like you might have some self-talk about, I'm not on time, or I'm running late, or this project isn't completed yet. Really giving ourselves time until after spring starts in 2025 to give ourselves a grace period. So there's this part of acquiring abundance, acquiring more connection to the mind space and to our mental health. So really giving ourselves a sort of more siesta time, more resting time. It's not really about giving yourself permission to procrastinate though. So watch the low side, that if you're noticing that you are procrastinating, today, you might have noticed that being a one energy day. Often on a one energy day, procrastination is the downside. But back to Jupiter and its retrograde, really just allowing the mind to lead us, allow it to expand in ways and to explore. So some of the things that we might want to find in doing during this time frame is some like ways that you stimulate your mind on a mental way. Like maybe it's doing Sudoku puzzles, maybe it's playing games, maybe it's like finding ways to have witty jokes and banter. That is something that I love to do with my children. So, whatever stimulates your mind mentally. Now, remember, this is for the collective chart. It may not be how it's being expressed for you. So, those of that are here live, we're going to go over your chart in just a moment and talk a lot more about how this Jupiter retrograde might be showing up for you. Now, a friendly reminder, Jupiter is still going to be in Gemini for, I think, down, my ephemeris isn't in front of me. We still have quite a few more months of Jupiter being in Gemini. Jupiter generally is in a sign for about a year. So again, giving yourself this permission to expand and take up space with your thoughts. And if you're finding that the people that you're sharing your thoughts with are not being supportive, again, this is a time what this Scorpio season might show us is that those people might not be a part of our jam. They might not be the people that are for us. So I'm noticing here June 10th. Thank you. So June 10th, 2025 is when Gemini will release Jupiter from its hold. So between now and June 10th, how Jupiter is showing up for you in the last month or two, notice some things when it comes to your thoughts. How's your cognition been? And if you're having some problems and some challenges with clarity, please reach out for us for a distance session so we can start to help you in an energetic way to give you a body practice that is specific to you. The one that we just did in this little segment was the one that's generic. It might have worked for you. You might have felt a shift. That's great. It might have worked bang on for you. You might have shifted completely. But if it's something that didn't shift that much for you, please do reach out. This is what we're here for. Does that feel sort of complete? I'm going to just check in with the chat if that feels like that answered the question for you. And then we will move on to talk a little bit about Mars, because Mars has been perfect. Thank you for the feedback. Mars has done some doozers in our community. And this last week, we have noticed 4 accidents, 4 MVA, like motor vehicle accidents. And unfortunately, one landed into a fatality from what we know. Mars is like about moving fast. And when it's in retrograde, we might be taking actions, not thinking about it, not paying attention to where we are. So this blend of where Jupiter is right now and currently where Mars is right now, there's this expansion of taking up space, but not reviewing our actions potentially, which can be an expansiveness of collision, unfortunately. Hazing?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely that. And that piece of it entering its retrograde. But within that piece of its retrograde, there's that piece of, yeah, going faster than what we need to. There's
Forcing the
also
speed. Yeah.
there's also the piece of it's in a soft square with Saturn. So it just came out of a hard aspect of being in a square with Saturn. So there's that piece of it's like it was challenged by responsibility, and now it's like, haha, I don't have any more responsibility. I can do whatever I want. And it has that speed and now it's built up momentum away from Saturn. And so it's that even building up greater speed.
And it's challenging too. Like when a square happens between any aspects, it's about giving us lessons to learn. It's about giving us challenges that are making us stop and pause. And if we're not stopping and pausing, like we've witnessed in like the traffic side of things, because we've been doing a lot more traveling back and forth in between communities in these last few weeks, it's noticing when we are going too fast and why are we going too fast. Part of this retrograde energy, no matter what aspect is in retrograde or where it's landing in a chart, It's time for us to ask inwardly, to slow down, to double check, not just necessarily contracts, but to double check, like, is this in right relationship? What are my actions going to do and how are they going to impact others? So part of this Mars action right now is, again, really wanting us to slow down, notice what are we committed to, as we're winding down 2024, taking some time to reflect back to the beginning of 2024. Where are we at when it comes to our goals? How did we take up space when it comes to our goals? These are parts of what this energy that we're talking about right now is, allowing some balance between what we set out to do, checking in with our actions, and then noticing where we might have dropped the ball. And it's totally okay if we've dropped the ball. We have another almost 2 full weeks left of Libra season. The encouragement to help Scorpio season to be a lot easier and more gentle to get into is to notice what is not in balance. And part of what we're wanting to make sure that is that when things are out of balance, it's okay. It's not about beating ourselves up. It's not about becoming resentful and putting some self-hate on ourselves. And this can be something that's really easy to do when we have this combination of Mars and Jupiter at the same time going into retrograde. Zane, is there anything you want to add to that part of it? Because I know we've got a couple more notes that we want to add about the transits.
No, I would say I don't have anything else to add to that.
Okay, perfect. We want to make sure that we are aware that the full moon is coming up, and what this full moon might be drawing in some attention to some of the things that are starting to maybe show up since the eclipse, but really allowing ourselves the space to release and let go of what is no longer serving us. This is a full moon in Aries. It'll be happening on Thursday, on the 17th, just in next week. Giving ourselves some time and some space. Again, depending on where this full moon lands for you, it might have a little bit of a different flavor. For you personally, for the collective, this is really about releasing the connections to self, potentially some self-hate, potentially also some of the things that we've been doing when it comes to our habits of supporting the self. Is there anything you want to add to that? I just need to clear my throat.
Mm, no.
No, Aries rules the head. So when it comes to this full moon, it's about releasing thoughts. It's about releasing some self-talk, and then being able to then celebrate what we have done for ourselves, being able to start to harvest all of the good things. For those of you that are farmers, or for our collection for the farmers community, it's also the harvest moon. It's time to start to look at, where have we done the effort? Where have we put forth the effort for us to be able to collect, to be able to harvest, to be able to start to store up for winter? So give yourself some space for that. It lands on an 8 energy day, so there's some momentum to this. Notice where you're called. Notice where you already have momentum. And one of the things that I started to cough, and I noticed that I cough when I have some issues within myself, is clearing my own throat, clearing my own voice. And something I've been hiding is healing from a concussion. So notice I said Aries rules the head. It'll be 2 months actually, almost to the day of this full moon, that I unfortunately fell and hit my head. And because of the tools we teach here, I wouldn't have been able to heal as quick as I have been. So with that said, I want you to note how you feel this day. Note how and what you are called to when it comes to celebrating this full moon. So into Scorpio season, the sun will go into Scorpio on October the 22nd at 3:15 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Notice too how you feel in your physical body. It happens on a 4 energy day, and 4 is all about foundation, being able to create stability. So part of our forecast for Scorpio season is going to be a lot about creating foundation for ourselves. It is fixed water energy. So notice where your stubbornness does serve you. Notice where you want to create for this season. We're going to have a blend of energy from the month of October's energy being this 9 energy month. So again, finding those endings. And as we cruise through Scorpio season into November, the month of November is a 1 energy month. And what's really exciting is that the new moon in Scorpio lands exactly right on November 1st. So we have this real spark of how do we want to create for ourselves? Where in your chart this is getting activated? Again, reach out for a personal reading so that you can know where this is for you, because this is a collective part. And this new moon is going to be happening at 5:47 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and it's on a 2 energy day. So it's happening on a Friday. It's the Venus Love Day. It's a 2 energy day. It's about our intuition. It's about how we collaborate with others, how we connect to those intuitive powers we have, because Scorpio is really about us being connected to the magician within, being able to allow ourselves the space to create from the mystic. Is there anything you want to add to that, Zane?
Mm, no, I would say that you've covered a fair bit of ground in a quick pace. So I'm like, I'm kind of keeping track with it myself, but then
It's okay.
is that piece of like, no, I don't have anything to add to that.
Perfect. Thank you. So, as we are going into Scorpio season, again, notice if there is any sort of scorched feeling, any sort of sting, toxicity. Again, this is part of leaning into your kidney meridian. If you want more practices, reach out. But really, during Scorpio season, use the kidney meridian as much as you feel called to be clearing that. Go back to the body practice, be clearing those toxins out, because often what can happen is anxiety during Scorpio season, anxiousness, wanting to go faster than we really need to because the daylight is fading quickly as we get into winter. There's lots of things that many of us want to get completed before the winter comes. But again, this retrograde energy that's here, allow yourself to go to a pace that is actually feasible for where you're at. There is absolutely no shame in going slower. And if anything, going slower gets the job done faster. I know that sounds like it doesn't really make sense, but have you ever done something so fast that all of a sudden you're noticing so many mistakes? And again, this next 2 weeks, take the time for yourself, get yourself in check, find the balance that is going to bring you joy. Reach out for a reading. Our next class will be the second Thursday of November, which will land just before the full moon in Taurus. Again, this is going to be a time for us to be talking about how we release and let go of the things that we no longer value so we can bring in the celebration of what we do value. I really appreciate you being here, sharing this content if you have found some value in it. And of course, come and see us next class at 7 Pacific. Well, we'll be in Pacific savings time at that point in PTS time. That is Thursday, November the 14th. Zane, any closing comments before we play with some charts with our community?
Thank you for taking your time to watch this recording and send us questions if you have any. And I hope you have a wonderful time whenever you are listening to this.
I like that. You always have a nice way to finish everything off. All right. We'll see you all very soon. Thanks. Make sure to hit the like and the subscribe so that you are up to date, because we do pop on here from time to time to share more information. And I love the fact that you asked for questions, because that helps us to learn, but also gives you space to have your voice be heard. So thanks again, and make it a great night.